Hi, I'm Bob, and welcome to Between the Sheets, where we look at Microsoft Excel and related technologies. Microsoft just introduced another set of functions, and these are able to handle regular expressions. If you aren't familiar, regular expressions are an industry standard way of finding, validating, and possibly replacing text using patterns you specify. These techniques started with programming languages a long time ago, and they've been in use by other desktop applications for many years. Now, you might wonder, why do we need them? Excel already has the substitute, search, find, and replace functions. Well, those functions are great, but they work with a broad brush. They don't have the level of detail that regular expressions have, and nesting many levels of functions in a formula is difficult and confusing. At the end of this video, I'll give you a few resources for learning regular expressions. Just please keep in mind that as of this recording, Excel's regular expressions functions are in beta, so you might not have them available yet, and once you do, they could be different from what I show you in this video. So let's take a look, see how it works. Here are the three new functions I'll show you. The first is regex text, and this checks if any part of a cell matches a regular expression. It's simply going to tell you true or false if it finds what it's looking for or not. The second function I'm going to show you is regex extract. If the function finds a cell or a part of a cell that matches the regular expression, this will extract and display it. And the third function I'm going to show you is regex replace. This will look for text that matches your regular expression and replaces it with different text that you want. I'm going to start by showing you a simple example of the first function. And the syntax of regex text is, say, equals regex text, open the parenthesis. First argument is the cell that we are looking at. The second argument is what is the regular expression itself. And the third argument, which is optional, that's whether the expression is case sensitive or not. Let's go into Excel. And in this worksheet, we have 100 records of contact information, ID, first name, last name, and so on. What I want to do is down column J over here, I want to find any of the company names, right? The company names are in column D. I want to find any of the company names that contain the letters AC, context sensitive. So capital A followed by a lowercase c. This is about as simple as a regular expression is going to get. So in J2, I'm going to say equals, and I'm going to start typing the function. And I type the first few letters, and like so many other, or all other Excel functions, I get this little pop-up. Now, if you're doing this on your machine and you don't see these three functions coming up, it just means that your installation of Excel does not have these functions available yet. So I'm going to choose regex text, hit the tab key. So the text is contained in D2, so I'm going to click that, comma. Now I'm going to put in the regular expression. And whenever you put text in an Excel formula, it has to go in quotation marks. Otherwise, Excel isn't going to understand what it is. So I'm going to open up a set of quotation marks, and I'm going to put in AC, context sensitive, close the quotation marks, comma, and I want this case sensitive. So Excel is going to put in a 0 or 1, but I don't have to remember 0 or 1 because I could just read it here. Do I want a case sensitive or case insensitive? So I'm going to choose the first one. I hit tab key, it puts in the 0, close the parenthesis and enter, and it gives me a value of false because cell D2 does not contain capital A followed by lowercase c. Let me autofill down to the bottom. And most of these are false, but the combination does exist in a few of the cells. So as I scroll back up, you notice there's a few instances of true, right? Like action and accessible, and a few others. Now, this is very hard to read, trying to pick out really a needle in a haystack, finding the true and the false. So what I'm going to do to make this easier to read is I'm going to apply conditional formatting. So I'm going to start at the top, and I'm going to press Control Shift down arrow. If you're on the Mac, Command Shift down arrow. And on the Home tab of the ribbon bar in conditional formatting, I'm going to go to Highlight Cell Rules, and where it says Text That Contains, I'm going to put in True, and I want that formatted as green. Click OK, and now I can see there's a few of them. There's 4 of them there. So like this one here, I can see there's Acra, and this one, there's accessories, and so on. And by the way, you notice that this function, as it is, the way I wrote it, it doesn't distinguish whether the AC is at the beginning of the text or not, right? Because like this one, I've got AC is at the beginning with Acra. This one, the AC is in accessories and not the first part of the cell. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's not right or wrong, but I want to kick this up a notch here. So to make it a little more complicated, I still want to find all words with AC case sensitive, but only those that are 5 or more characters, and only where that AC is at the beginning of the cell. So let me go back up to the top, and here's the first one. And I'm going to edit in the formula bar. I think it's going to be a little easier. So the D2 I'm going to leave alone. Case sensitive, that 0 I'm going to leave alone. But I'm going to modify the expression itself, that AC. So before that AC, I'm going to put in a caret mark. So the caret mark means only find instances where this is at the beginning of the text, not somewhere in the middle. Let me cursor over here a little bit. And since I want to find only those that are 5 characters or more, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in /W, and then in curly braces 4, comma, and then close the curly braces. Now, if you're not familiar with regular expressions, this might just look like a lot of gibberish, but what that /W4 comma means is match the first 4 or more characters after the AC. And yeah, this is confusing, right? It's confusing that it's 4 and not 5, but it's 4 following the first thing, not a total. Sorry, I didn't invent this. So I'm going to enter that. And before I fill it, right, so this is the one that's changed. You notice we have 4 of these that are flagged as true, but now I'm going to autofill over it, so I could just double click the autofill dot. And notice that a couple of those that were true are now false. And let's see why. So here's that Acra aerospace, but Acra is fewer than 5 characters, so that's no longer true. And now let's go down. Here's that jewelry and accessories, and that's also false because the accessories is not at the beginning of the cell. But I'll go down here. And this one is still true. There's accessible, and this one is still true, and there's action. So this is really, you can see the power of using regular expressions here. So I'm going to go back up to the top, and I'm going to show you now the regex extract function to extract text. I'm going to use the same regex criteria to make it easier. First, let me show you the function syntax. So the function of regex extract is similar to the regex text function we just used, but now we have an optional argument of the return mode. And that mode means, do we want the first match it finds, or all matches, or if it finds groups of the same match, do we want to extract all of them? That option can be a little confusing. So here's what it means. I'm talking about the return mode here. Let's say there are several lines of text in some of the cells. That option can grab all of them, or it could grab the first one, or it could grab groups of the first match. So you would identify the groups by putting the pattern match inside a set of parentheses. But that's not what we're going to do here. I just want you to know that that is a possibility. All right, so let's go back to Excel. And I'm going to do this in column K. That's where we will do the extract. So I'm going to say equals regex. I want that regex extract. I'll just hit the tab key. So once again, we're going to look at cell D2, comma, and now the expression itself, I'm going to open up a set of quotation marks. So like before, I want that AC. I'm going to put in AC, and here I don't care if it's at the beginning of the cell or not. And I'm going to put in, kind of like before, that slash W, open up the curly braces for comma, close that. So I'm still looking for, 5 or greater characters. Close the quotation marks, comma, and here's where we get a little drop down. And this is what I was explaining a moment ago. Do I want just the first match or all matches, or do I want groups? So I'm going to choose just the first match, comma, and I want this case sensitive, so I'm going to pick that. Close the parenthesis. Now you notice that this gives me an error. This gives me an NA error. Let's autofill down to the bottom and see what else is going on. And you see most of these tends to jump a little bit. Sorry about that. That's just the way Excel works sometimes. I'll use the scroll bar. So most of these are giving me these #NA errors, but a few of these, like where we have the true flagged in column J, is giving us results. So these are not errors because something is wrong, but because the function didn't find what it was looking for. Unfortunately, the function as it works today doesn't have error checking built in. Now, I hope Microsoft includes error checking in the final release version of this function, but we can do our own error checking by stuffing. Let's go up to the top here. There's that accessories again. We can stuff the whole function inside the if error function. So let me just go to that first one. And what I'm going to do is I'll click up there and I'm going to put in an if error, open up set of parentheses, and at the very end, I'm going to put in a comma. And now if that throws an error, what I want as a result is just a blank cell. So I'm going to have 2 quotation marks, just an empty set of quotation marks. And now I close the outer parenthesis. So here I've got if error beginning there and closing there. I've got regex extract opening there, closing there. So now I enter it because that would have generated an error. It's now blank. Let me autofill to the bottom. Looks a lot more clean. And now I've got that. Got all of those that I was expecting to get. So if the function was going to throw an error, now it returns a blank cell instead. If there is no error, it returns the function as it should. Okay, so now let's look at the third function, which is regex replace. Let's look at the syntax. So the syntax of regex replace is similar to the other 2 functions we looked at. Again, we specify the cell that has the contents in the expression, then we have the text we're replacing with. The 2 optional arguments are occurrence and case sensitivity. Now, what occurrence means is if there's more than one instance of the text you're looking to replace, which one do you want? By default, it will replace all of them, and the parameter for that is 0. Or you could tell it, 1, 2, 3, etc., and you could even start at the end with -1, -2, and so on. It's kind of like a light went off in the head of Excel's developers at Microsoft, and they realized after 40 years that, hey, there are times when a user wants to start at the end, and let's not make it insanely difficult for them to do it. Let's build that right in. So this is something common in some of the new functions that Microsoft is coming out with Excel, is letting you start at the end of something with a minus sign, so it's not that difficult. All right, let's go back to Excel. There's a bunch of listings here where the word company is abbreviated as CO. So let's take a look. So for example, in this record here, we have Continental Baking CO. And there's a whole bunch of them down here. But There are a few where the word company is already spelled out. And then you've got a couple of instances like this, where you have like Collins, which has a CO, and we don't want to modify that one either. So I want to be very specific that we're only going to look for CO where it's capital C, lowercase o, and it stands alone. So that's what we're going to change from CO to company. So let's go up to the top. So at the top of column L, I'm going to put in equals regex. I want regex replace. So like before, I'm going to grab cell D2, comma, open up the quotation marks. So I want CO as a whole word. So I'm going to start with a /B. That's a \B. That's a word boundary. So this means this is the beginning of the word. So I put a capital C, lowercase o, and now I end it with another \B. So between the two B's, the word boundary, that's how it knows that CO is the entire word that I am looking for. Now I can close that quotation mark, comma, what do I want to replace with? Now I'm going to open up another set of, this help text is getting in my way, so let me drag that out of the way. So what do I want to replace with? Open up another set of quotation marks, and I'm going to replace with the word company, comma, and now occurrence, I want 0, comma, and now I want it case sensitive. By the way, that first 0 that I put in, you notice there was no drop-down help like there is for the last one. Again, this is still in beta. I'm hoping that we will get the drop-down of those options, but maybe not, because, do you want the first one, second one, the last one? So maybe there was no way to do that automatically. I don't know. Close the parenthesis there, enter it, and again, we get that NA error because the word company does not exist in cell D2. So let's autofill down to the bottom. And you see we've got a few replacements, mostly those NA errors. And like before, we can stuff the whole thing into the if error function. So let me grab the first one and let me edit that. So I'm going to say equals if error, open up the parenthesis, and there at the end, I'm going to put in empty double quotes. So again, if this whole formula throws an error, we're going to put in an empty set of quotation marks. If it does not throw an error, we're going to put in the original formula, close a parenthesis, enter. So that clears out the NA. We have a blank cell. Let me double click the autofill dot, and that looks so much more clean. Let me stretch this out a little bit. So now we've got like Continental Baking Company and American Processing Company, Inc. So you see, it found that it was a whole word, and it did not have to be at the very end. And this letter guide CO changed to letter guide company. So there's a whole bunch of these here, and it all worked pretty well. In the intro to this video, I promised you a few resources for learning regular expressions, so here are a few of them. There's a very nicely done tutorial site at regexlearn.com. As far as I can tell, this resource is free and you can donate voluntarily. There is an easy-to-use quick reference guide at Cheatography. I love that name. And I really like the nifty testing environment at regexer.com. In this environment, you can write and test expressions interactively. And of course, you can also use ChatGPT to write regular expressions. I tested it and it works pretty well. Tell it what you want the pattern to do, and Chat writes it for you. Of course, you can test the results at regexer. So until next time, my name is Bob, and this has been Between the Sheets.